Good morning, everybody. Good morning, David. Good morning, Irfan. Happy Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, April 25th. Finally, earnings season is upon us with Microsoft and Google both reporting today after hours. So be prepared for some volatility there. Also be prepared for some volatility at around 10 a.m. We're going to get the Conference Board Consumer Confidence report coming out at 10 a.m. It's a very volatile event. And basically, it is a sentiment gauge for the consumer, obviously. And it is predicting how consumer is going to be in the future. So if consumer confidence is pulling back, that means that consumers are going to be spending less money going forward. That's going to bring earnings down. So this kind of plays into all this earnings volatility that we're going to be getting over the next few days with Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Visa, all reporting in the next couple of days. So be prepared for it. 10 a.m. And then again, tonight we're going to have Microsoft and Google both reporting. So Microsoft currently trading at $279.50. A lot of anxiety around their earnings report. They ended up dropping yesterday. From about 284 at open all the way down to a low of 279.50, and currently we're at about that price level. So a lot of selling action going into Microsoft earnings. For Visa, kind of the same action, a little bit higher than yesterday's lows. So, and then for the other big names in tech, Apple is still holding up at 165, seems to be kind of balancing out around that mark and holding this 200 moving average for the hourly chart. It ended up bouncing on that 3 times so far. But I think after Microsoft earnings, we'll have a decisive move for Apple. Took on a couple of trades ahead of, or I guess at close yesterday. I ended up buying some UVIXI calls that ought to be doing pretty nice this morning, and then I opened some QQQ iron condors, assuming that we would be between 314 and 317, which is the range that we've found ourselves in for the past couple days at least. And this is kind of the lower end of the range that we've been in for like the last 3 weeks, right? We've been caught between 314 and as high as 319 for the better part of 3 weeks. I do think that there's a chance that we could end up going below these price levels. If you're looking at IWM, the Russell 2000, this actually ended up breaking below its levels that it's been for the last couple of weeks of trading, between 176 or so and 179. Right now we're trading at 175.60. I think this is mostly due to FRC earnings coming in better than expected, but their deposits ended up dropping by about 40%. So people are worried that you might have bank runs on FRC. And right now their stock is trading at $12, which is just about the lows that it saw right after the Silicon Valley Bank meltdown back in mid-March. So a lot of volatility for this one, down about $4 versus 16, down about 25% as of this morning. Any plays for today? Let's see. Besides the plays that I already have open, I'm thinking about opening a put debit spread for QQQ just in case we go below our range at 314. I'm thinking about opening a 313, 314 put debit spread. And that'll be a hedge against my iron condor between 314 and 317. So that's a trade I have as of right now. Probably going to set the expiration date either tomorrow or Thursday. Not too certain yet on what expiration date I'm going to choose there. But that's the idea for right now. My UVIXI calls currently are up $65. I bought 15 of them for 30. Now they're going for 33. Oh, God. Same shit with UVIXI. These don't have much extrinsic value at all, so it makes getting out of these trades that much harder. Ugh. Annoying. But yeah, QQQ is down to 314.19, so we're getting really close to that level there. Yesterday we ended up bouncing on that intraday. The day before that we ended up bouncing on it first thing in the morning, so definitely watch out for 314. It's been a pretty pivotal point for the last couple days of trading at least, and it's been our support for the last like 3 weeks. And then below that you're going to look at like 313, the infamous 313 level for QQQ. All right, these are going for 32. I bought them at 30. I have 16 contracts, actually. I'm thinking we're probably going to get a rally first thing here, just like we have the last couple of days. So I'm going to try to get out if I can. Oh, I wish I could get out at a higher price, but nobody wants to buy UVixie calls these days, it seems like. It's super dumb. But yeah, we ended up bouncing first thing almost at about 314.10, so slightly above yesterday's low. Well, I meant to sell all of these, not just 6 of them, but okay. So that'll be like $16 profit. Not a ton. But expecting this rally first thing in the morning. So closing options alerts, premium. Just took profits on, oh geez, I can't type, the VIXI 350 calls at, what was it, 31 each. And I did not take a screenshot of closing all of them, but there it is. All right. So QQQ trading at 314.50 right now. It's a little bit of hesitancy to go up here first thing in the morning. So let's see what IWM is trading at 175.86. So seeing a little bit of a rebound first thing, similar to the rest of the market. My iron condors are up a whopping $5 at the moment. And UVixie is pulling back to 1750 now. So got out of that position first thing. Looking so good so far. SPY's trading at 411. So kind of in the upper end of the first 5 minutes. But QQQ getting weighed down at the moment. We're seeing Apple up 0.37%. We're seeing Amazon pulling back even more from the last day of trading. Yesterday it sold off pretty rough, 109 down to about 105, and now it's at 105 still. And then Microsoft is trading at the lows too, currently at 279.30 versus a low at 278.70. So tech stocks, Amazon and Microsoft at least being weighed down. Apple not so much, but it's also not up a lot. It's only up 0.3%. If this was up like 0.5%, 1%, then I would imagine that QQQ would be a little bit more stable, but thanks to Amazon and Microsoft falling about 1% so far this morning, you're getting weighed down by those two names. I also took on a NVIDIA trade, assuming that they would be below 265 by the end of this week. Put debits red, 275 and 265 strike prices. That one is currently down by 50. It's not doing too hot there, with NVIDIA currently up by 0.25%. But I'm thinking with Intel reporting on Thursday, that's going to be a sympathy trade. And after TSM ended up reporting earnings, NVIDIA didn't really sell off very much. I mean, it's still trading at 270 versus a high at 280. And if you're looking at TSM, which is basically the main provider of all these chips, this one ended up falling from about $85 down to $83. Ended up topping at about $91. So I think we could see a decent pullback for NVIDIA, for AMD, for the chip industry overall. But it's really going to depend on how Intel earnings comes in on Thursday, I think. All right, QQQ is getting a little bit of a recovery, still down 0.5%. It's not exactly looking pretty. The momentum is down this morning, currently at 40 RSI. Couldn't get above 50. So I'm thinking about opening a QQQ put debit spread expiring in a couple days. Either tomorrow on the 26th or on the 27th on Thursday. Assuming that we're going to crack the 314 level and go down to 313. Right now, the Thursday expiration is costing us 44, and tomorrow's expiration is currently costing us 52. Oh, wait, I chose the wrong strike prices. All right, tomorrow's expiration is costing us 44. Thursday's expiration is costing us 44 as well. Kind of want to give it that extra day just for more earnings plays to go out. But kind of wanted to keep the expiration short too at the same time. So we still have about 20 minutes until the CB consumer confidence report. So still have time to wait for this trade right now. Currently they're going for 40. I was looking at them for 44. So getting a little discount. Good morning, Kamala. Good morning, David Irfan. Hello, Yard Dog. Early morning. Do I think Bobble will drop to 80 to 82? Puts expiring on the 28th. We've seen a pretty decent sell-off for the Chinese stocks overall have been pretty rough. At least in the past month, down from 105 to 84. So you're definitely betting with momentum. I would say that's in your favor. Getting down to 82, you're going to have some supports. You've already lost the support at 85, I guess. Let's go back a little bit more. You're gapping down. And let's see. Your next support is right about where you're calling for at 82. So I would say if you're up decently on those trades, that it would be worth taking profits on. You could always keep like part of the position open if you have multiple contracts. But I would probably take advantage of, it's down 2.5% today after a gap down. So I wouldn't want to risk it personally. Looks like Apple is recovering right now. Amazon is still holding that 105 level and Microsoft at 280. So recovery for QQQ going on as of right now, which means that our iron condors ought to be doing nice. Hopefully. Actually, no. They're not doing nice. They haven't gained anything, which makes no sense, but okay. But Apple's at 166, up 0.5% today. Amazon's still down 1%. Microsoft recovered to 0.4% when it was down 1% earlier. Let's see, Nvidia probably headed, it's just about break even. So we're really not seeing much movement in the tech QQQ as of right now. No real decisive moves, I would say, just yet. Maybe you'll have some more decisive price action after 10 o'clock with the CB consumer confidence, but I'm hoping we can get to where we're at with the volume at 315.40. That would be ideal scenario for me. With the iron condors, I opened assuming between 314 and 317. And you want the with the iron condor, you want the stock to be in the middle between the strike prices that you sold and as close to the expiration at 4 o'clock as you can. But I would probably want to close this hopefully before 10 a.m. if we do end up hitting this low volume range between 314.30 and 314.50. Sorry, I think I said 314.50 and I meant 315.50. Any good recommendations for stocks to trade options besides Nvidia and Tesla? I'm trading Apple right now with Microsoft earnings today. You could always trade Microsoft itself for their earnings. I already did that trade, assuming that Microsoft would be below 265, and I took profits when it was trading at like 281 or 282. So I really like to play earnings trades in, like, if I'm up significantly before the earnings, there's no sense in, like, you know, holding into the earnings and having the chance that the trade could go against you. So usually I'm a huge trader for earnings. I'd have a decent track record at least for them. So, like, I would be focused on probably Microsoft. Amazon is reporting, I think, on Thursday. Yeah. So you still have a little bit of wait for that. And then Visa is reporting today after hours. So I would probably be focused on Visa and Microsoft. And then Google is reporting today too. So those three names I think would be a good opportunity. All right. We're still about 15 minutes away from the big report today. How am I getting my earnings forecast? So earnings forecast you can get from earningswhispers.com. Earnings Whispers with an S at the end. And then going to whatever stock, you can type it up here. So for example, Microsoft, their earnings expected at 222 earnings per share. What I'll do is I'll look at earnings history. So Microsoft earnings history. And I like to use market beat, and I'll take the average of their earnings for the last couple of years. So I'll just go through this, add all of these up for the last 8 quarters, take the average of it, and then do the revenue as well. And then you'll also get the revenue estimate from Earnings Whispers. So then I'll compare what has the average been, what is Wall Street expecting, is this industry a good industry for, you know, beating the average or not, or is you know, growth slowing down in that industry, and then take on a trade accordingly. And, you know, especially considering that tech is the leader year to date in terms of stock gains, with Microsoft going from 213 to 280. There's more downside potential for this. But, I already took advantage of that downside potential whenever I opened a put debit spread at around 288 and then closed it at 282. So I could have maybe held it into earnings and, got the max profit. But for me, after making $150 on the earnings, making the extra, I think it was like 200 or something, maybe 300, wasn't worth it. Just because earnings are so binary, like it can go for you, against you. You really don't know. Even if the company does well on earnings, if they beat on earnings, beat on revenue, and the whole shebang, they can still drop. And even if they miss on earnings, miss on revenue, they can still go up. Like, this market isn't entirely rational, so can't really bank on that. All right, QQQ's coming to 314 again. Here we go. 313.85. Dang it. Well, it would have been nice to get in to those put debit spreads before, because now I'm sure they're going for real expensive. Yeah, 47, and I was looking at them for 40. So could have had a bag on that, but still want to wait that extra 13 minutes until the report. Looks like it's Amazon that's leading the way down. Now down 1.5% this morning. Microsoft down still 0.5%, so not as much. But Amazon giving up that rally, that huge rally from Friday, is a little bit concerning for the market right now. And then you're looking at SPY at 410 right now. So that's been the bottom of this range too, that it's found itself in the last couple of weeks. And then you're looking at 406 being the next range to the downside. Took profits on Baba. Nice. Sounds like too much math and thinking. Just put it all on black. Oh, yeah. It do be like that. Waiting on Amazon to get down to the cheaper price. I think that Amazon... I think it's priced well for earnings. I don't think that it's... I think there's a possibility that it's overpriced, yes, but they already gave their guidance that they would have bad earnings this year. So for the most part, I think that Amazon's earnings is already priced in. So I think that Amazon's going to have a pretty boring, flat earnings, personally. Unless their projections get even worse, which is possible, given that consumer spending is slowing down over the last couple of months. That could definitely weigh negatively on their earnings forecast, but they're only expected to make like $4 billion in net income this year. So this is a $1 trillion company only making $4 billion in earnings. So kind of concerning, 250 price to earnings ratio on a company that doesn't have a lot of growth ahead of it. Not exactly a pretty stock to own, but again, that could already be priced in unless they forecast even worse earnings. All right. I'm going to try to get into some put debit spreads on QQQ for tomorrow's expiration, right before this report at 10 a.m. I'm hoping that I can get in cheap, but right now the puts are a little bit expensive, trading for 44 on the 314, 313 put debit spread. So hopefully I can get them for around 40, but it's not looking like it as of right now. Oh no. Right now you have that support just below 314 that we've caught yesterday and the pre-market. But, this catalyst could also reverse our price action if it's better than expected. So, binary trade, definitely. My NVIDIA trade is currently up by about $100 currently. Oh no, my Mac is about to die. I'm gonna have to go get my charger. I thought I brought it in here. No, guess not. All right. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get these much cheaper than about 44 cents a piece. Unless I wait and take the chance after the report. Any key support levels for UPS? Let's see, UPS. Trading at 179, a little bit below that right now. That's a bad gap down. Support levels, right now I have 174 that it's held above for the last about 5 months of trading. Above that, there's no real gaps or anything, but you're looking at about 176 based on the lows right here and the lows previous to that. And below that, maybe about 170 or 171. So 171, 174, and 176 would be your support for UPS. But that is a really bad gap down right now. All right. These trades are going for 45. I'll be lucky if I get them for 44, but I'll try. Oh, no. Dang it. No. What the heck? I placed the order for 42 instead of 45. Oh, man. All right. Just got those put debit spreads expiring for tomorrow. New options alert. Premium. Just opened a new QQQ put debit spread expiring tomorrow, which is the 26th at 45 each. Strike prices assuming below 313. Make sure I have all the details correct. Yep. 426, 313, 314. Beautiful. All right, and right now QQQ is trading just at that 314 mark, so very edgy here. Very, very edgy. I'm gonna go snag my charger right quick. Be right back. All right, and I'm back. Got about 4 minutes until the CB consumer confidence. How do I think we go in a video? Probably down after Intel earnings Thursday. Probably at about what is it trading at? Let's see. 260 is my guess. So kind of in the bottom end of its range that it's found itself in, with the rest of the market just trading flat. Forecast for Microsoft. So I was assuming that Microsoft would be below 285, but I already exited the trade. I would still say that there's a good chance that they're going to be below 285. Let's see. If we go over to my notes, I usually set 4 different price targets based on what the earnings expectations is. So if they end up beating on earnings, beating on revenue, I think their stock could maybe go below or go above 290. Beat on earnings, miss on revenue, probably above 280, so where it's at right now. If they miss on earnings, beat on revenue, I think their stock will be above 275, and miss earnings, miss revenue, below 270. Those are my guesses. I'd say probably the most likely scenario is beat on earnings, maybe a miss on revenue. So my guess, probably $280, which is where it's already trading. So you could maybe do like an iron condor on it. But then if they do end up missing earnings, there's a decent bit that they could fall down to either 275 or 270. So don't put a lot of weight on that trade. All right, CB consumer confidence in about 30 seconds. Yeah, I know. Just started charging it, Kyle. Thank you. All right. Here we go. In comes the volatility. Well, maybe. Let's go to the economic calendar, see what they're giving us. Okay. Clear and go to United States. CB's consumer confidence came in at 101.3 versus 104 expected. So that is a pretty sizable miss on consumer confidence. That means that consumer spending is likely to be slowing down if the consumer doesn't feel as good about the economy, which means that earnings for the next couple of quarters is not going to be great. But first reaction, QQQ moved back up to 314.60, 314.50. Thinking about closing out of my iron condors and then holding the put debit spreads that I got for tomorrow. These are rising in value real quick. I'm hoping I can get out at a profit, but so far not looking like we can. Got them for 57. They're going for 55 based on the mid price. But yeah, the initial reaction to that was positive. Let's see what the dollar index. Dollar index starting to pull back a little bit on that report, but not a lot of volatility out of it so far. I might just keep both positions open. But in my opinion, I think that's a pretty bearish report. But markets haven't really cared so much about fundamentals as of lately, and all the data that's been coming out has been recessionary already. And, you know, that 314 support is very, very strong. So I think it might take a little bit more to get us below it. But we're sitting just above it right now. Let's see the earnings. Stocks. Amazon's down a little bit more, 1.3%. Microsoft down 0.4%. Visa definitely crashed on that report, as they probably should. And then Apple just trading at the highs for this morning. Nvidia's almost trading at the lows. I'm hoping we can touch that low that we got yesterday at 266 would be nice. Probably take profits around that if we dip down there again. Step 1, awful macro. Step 2, question mark. Step 3, somehow rally. Yeah, that's the way this market works, right? What are fundamentals anyways? Who needs those? What's my break even for QQQ, the put debit spread I opened? It is 313.55. For Nvidia, my break even is 270.25. Yeah, right now we just have that 314 support that QQQ just does not want to give up for the life of it. Does not want to give up for the life of it, man. It's trying everything it can to stay in the range. All right, Apple's pulling back from 166, so that could be the start to a sell-off for QQQ. But still holding above that 314 mark, so no decisive action yet. So far, it looked like a rebound, but very slow rebound. Do I trade any other options besides spine cues? Yes. Usually earnings reports and then sympathy trades. So I have Apple as a sympathy trade with Microsoft reporting today, and then I have NVIDIA with sympathy trade for Intel on Thursday. Earlier in the week, I ended up closing out of a Microsoft put debit spread. So I already took profits for that. So usually if I do make an individual trade, it's just based on earnings. All right. Looks like we're just coming below 314. I opened 5 of these iron condors at 57, and they're going for 60 right now. So I'll end up taking a little bit of a loss here. $15 loss if I can get out. There we go, below that 314 mark finally. Into a new low. All right, I'm going to have to raise my price. Oh, they just screwed me over there. That's okay. Got out at 305 or 61 cents each. So a little bit worse of a loss than my initial, but let's see. Closing options alert. Premium. Just cut losses on the 313, 314, 317, 318 QQQ Iron Condor expiring today, which is the 25th. At 61 each. Originally got them at 57 credits, so that's a $20 loss. Microsoft's back below 280. Amazon's down 1.5% again, so all these are testing the lows that they've seen the last couple of days. Apple is still holding up there. Could maybe use that as an opportunity to add up some shorts on Apple. But with the QQQ trade I already opened for tomorrow's expiration, I'm not sure that we really need that. What's a sympathy trade? A sympathy trade is trading an earnings report, but not trading the stock that's reporting, and instead choosing a similar stock to it. So, for example, with Intel, related stocks would be NVIDIA, AMD, Texas Instruments, any chip name, right? So you choose a company that's in the same category, and then you trade a different stock than the stock that's reporting earnings. So for Microsoft, it's most related to Apple, I would think, just because, you know, they have the software business and then they have the hardware business with the Microsoft laptops that they make. So I think that it's a pretty good sympathy trade to take there. And they're both, you know, $2 trillion companies, the biggest companies there are in the stock market. So all right, QQQ is down to 313.50. So we might finally be breaking out of the range that we found ourselves in for the last 3 weeks. It might finally come to a close. Thank God. So because they're in the same niche and two big competitors, then you can use more or less of the same indicators. Yeah, basically. I mean, I don't really use indicators so much for earnings, but just based on earnings expectations and price levels to look out for. All right, here we go with QQQ, almost down to 313. I'm scared that we're going to rip right off of 313 like we usually do. But, yeah. QQQ, not a pretty day. Apple is breaking even now, so that one's pulling back. Do I see QQQ running back to 314? Based on the rips that you get at 313, I think that could be a decent trade. But right now you're betting against momentum. Momentum is to the downside. So if you are comfortable trading momentum or trading against momentum, then I would say that would be a good trade. Probably don't risk as much betting against momentum. But, you know, that 313 level has been a very critical support for a while now. We've seen it rip off of 313 before, back on April 10th, and then before that on April 6th. So it's a very important support. And then your next one would be the lows of the month, which was 312.40. VIX is at 1812, so that means UVIXI is up to 390. Oh, that should have been my hedge. Holding on to those stupid UVIXI calls. Goddamn, that sucks. That would have been like $160 of profit, but 'tis what it is. Nvidia is making its way back down to 266 again. Currently at 267.18. Almost down to yesterday's lows where I want it. I'm not going to chase or bet against momentum. Yeah. Betting against momentum in this market is shooting yourself in the foot most of the time, but there is a lot of people that want to buy the dip, especially down at 313, 314. So you kind of have to find a balance there. That's why I like to keep, different kinds of trades open, like the iron condor that I have, and then the put debit spread, just so, I can kind of manage that as the markets choose their direction. If the markets chose to go up after the CB consumer confidence, I would have made profits on the iron condor. Obviously, I would have lost money on the put debit spread. But this has been the opposite. I cut my losses on the iron condor, and now I'm making profits for the put debit spread. So net between those, I'm up by about $20. Not a ton, but if this momentum continues to come down like it is right now, then there's more profits to make. Any plans on playing Google earnings? Didn't plan to. Let's see, it's trading at 106 right now. I haven't done the math and everything on it. It is trading relatively high compared to other tech names that have seen a drop for the last couple of days ahead of their earnings reports with Amazon and Microsoft. Well, Amazon's still kind of high, but Microsoft, not so much. But if you take a comparison of Microsoft to Google, Google would be trading probably at about 105 or so, maybe even like 104. So, if you think that Google is going to have a bad earnings report, you could take a put debit spread below 104. But Google hasn't been performing as well as Microsoft, Amazon, and the other big tech names since the start of the year. This one's only up from 86 to 106, or about like 25%, whereas Microsoft, Apple, and all the other big tech names were up like 30% year to date. So there's not as much love for Google in this year to date rally as there has been for other stocks. So I would be more neutral on it given that, rather than just being straight bearish. So for that trade, I mean, you could do like a call credit spread if you're bearish to neutral. And I don't have any price levels that are relevant to this right now, but maybe staying below like 108 would be reasonable. It's at 106 right now, so obviously it only has to go up $2 or like 2% for you to be in the money and take max loss on that. But I would imagine that the pay for that would be pretty decent for Goog. Yeah, right now that trade is paying about 36 cents in credit for $100 collateral, so you're risking $65 for every $35 in reward that you get. So it's a pretty good trade, I would say. Tesla's flying. Down 0.4% right now. Trading at 162 almost. Not really any news, but yeah, definitely pumping on that in that last 5-minute candle. I think this is just a way that they're trying to prop QQQ up, though. Whenever, these 4 tech names are selling off, well, I guess we can get rid of Visa, right? But when Apple is coming down from 166 to 165, Microsoft down at the lows, and Amazon, same thing. They're just pumping that money into Tesla instead, and I think this is just trying to prop up QQQ. They're just kind of rotating between names, the big tech names, and Tesla was their one that they wanted to pump in order to keep QQQ up. Do stock prices usually spike and have more volume right before earnings? So usually after earnings is when they have the most amount of volume. Because then people are reacting to the incoming data from the company. Yeah, QQQ is having a hard time with that 313 level. So I think I'm just going to get out of my put debit spreads pretty soon here. It's looking bearish currently at 30 RSI, so definitely weak in terms of relative strength. SPY's below 410, so that could be headed to 406 next, would be the next support for that. And then for QQQ, you're looking at 313, so it's a lot closer that it might get a support at. And the rotation between all the big tech names is just making it very difficult and cloudy to assume that QQQ will keep going down. people are surprised that FRC is down today. I mean, when you lose 40% of your deposits, it's not exactly a great look after the bank run that we had in March. What stock do I think is good for wheeling? That's a hard question, personally. I'm not a huge fan of the wheel, just because of how much cash it uses. I don't think that it's worth it. I would rather save my cash. You know, in my account, in my $30,000 account, $20,000 of that is cash. So I like keeping a lot of cash available to me, and I would rather, do spread options rather than the wheel strategy, personally. I'd rather take on a lot of cheap trades than try the wheel strategy, especially in, this market that we're in right now where everything is kind of just overheated. It's hard to find any good bargains in the market. All right, Nvidia's down to 266.50, so I think I can take profits here. They're trading for $6 a piece. I ended up buying them for $4.75, so $140 in profit that I can snag out of this if they will close me at a good price, but we'll see. Ooh, I almost typed in $3.15 for that price. That would have been really bad. I'll get it out at 610. If they'll give me that credit. They just moved the bid down on me by like 15 cents. Oh, gotta love this market. Volatile market. Please let me close out of this trade. Pretty please. There we go. Premium just took profits on the 265, 275 Nvidia put debit spread expiring 428 at 610 a pop. Wish I had added more to that position, but I'm not going to spend like $800 on a earnings trade. That one I originally picked up for, let's see, 265, 275 strike prices. Originally picked it up for 475. 610 minus 475. 135 profit. Can you close spread options for profit before they expire? Yes, absolutely. What trades have I made so far today? So I ended up closing out of a Iron Condor after 10 a.m. with the CB consumer confidence coming in worse than expectations. I opened a put debit spread right before that, assuming that it would be bad. Let's see what other trades I got today. I ended up taking profits on UVXY calls. It was only like $16. Not a ton. I could have held that for a lot more profit, unfortunately. This is the new put debit spreads I opened. the cut loss on the iron condors, and then just taking profits on those NVIDIA put debit spreads. So those are my trades so far this morning. And I'm probably going to head out of this QQQ put debit spread with that 313 level. Really, really close to us. We're kind of stalling out between 313 and like 313.50. So we're losing our momentum to the downside. And then I'm just going to have one trade still open, which is going to be an Apple put debit spread, assuming Microsoft's going to have bad earnings today. So that sympathy trade I was talking about earlier, and I'm trying to get out of this put debit spread at 50 after I snagged them at 45, so that would be about $50 of profit that I get out of that if I can get that price. Getting that price is a different story though with Robinhood. Momentum might still be down though. We're at 313.20, but we've just kind of found ourselves in the range between 313 and about 313.50, like I said. Not really flushing below 313 just yet. It would be nice to flush below 313, but it's not a given. So how long did it take me to get monetized on YouTube? It took me about 6 months. Let's see. I started YouTube back in March of 2020. Actually, February of 2020. I think I started posting videos in March 2020, but then I didn't start making any money on it until September 16th. And then since then, I've made about $38,000. Right now, I make roughly about $1,500 a month, give or take like a couple hundred. It's just been kind of flattening out for the last 3 months. And that's based on about 4,000 views a day. Yeah, all-time return on QQQ still seems high. I still think that QQQ is very overvalued in terms of like, the next couple of months for sure. Just based on the year-to-date return and based on earnings for tech stocks coming up, I think that there could be a decent sell-off in the next couple of months. But, this market hasn't been entirely rational, so I feel like even if there is bad earnings, there might not be a drop for it. Yeah, no problem, Steve. Looks like QQQ is falling definitely on the hourly chart. But yeah, you're looking at that 313 level that we bounced on a couple of times here. And 312.40. I don't think I want to test my luck with it. I've already had a pretty good morning, so don't want it to turn around. I'm going to place my order for 50 and get out. And I can still take advantage of any drops with the Apple put debit spreads for tomorrow. 3-minute candles are tiny. I use 5 minutes. But yeah. I mean, momentum is still down structurally if you're looking at the highs and the lows. You got 2 higher lows, 2 lower lows. So it's still bearish on the 5-minute candles. Still trading a 30 RSI. So it's oversold, but oversold really doesn't mean much. It can be oversold for an extended period of time. Doesn't really have like a time limit to how long it can be oversold for. And we ended up bouncing there. Good morning. All right. Getting so close to the lows, but still hanging above them. Let's check the other indices. SPY definitely headed down here. Seems like. IWM close to the morning lows, but not quite there. So looking at the other indices, this looks more posed to the downside. But again, there's just so much support right at 313. Everybody just wants to buy the dip right there. So very frustrating to be a bear at 313. Very frustrating to be a bear or bull in this market for the last 3 weeks. Any directional trade is just getting screwed these days. Do I think it's going to climb back to 314? I think that it can, but it really depends on this 313 support. So if we end up blowing past the 313, and if we manage down to 312.40, then I would say 314 wouldn't be in the cards later on. Right now we're at 313.05, so we're just kind of hanging in the balance here. The bid-ask spread on these is getting stupid. 50 and 55. That's crazy. If a stock started the morning with a lot of volume and price spiked, does that mean that it usually would not break resistance downward? So the way that you can use volume, I would use it with price levels, right? So if you see a spike going into a price level, like you did for QQQ, and then volume drops off, usually that means that we're going to stay below that price level based on what's known as trader's remorse. If there was peaking volume after we broke 314, if volume went back up after we cracked below it, then that would mean that we would probably retest the 314 price level. That's how I would use volume. And then price levels, you would want to add to that. All right, we're at 312.95, so just below the 313 mark. My options are gaining value, thankfully. I'm really glad that I got out of my iron condors now. That would have been a bad trade to hold. But let's see, they're going for 50, 51. I might be able to get out at 52 if I'm lucky. But I think that would require a lot of luck on my half. price levels like the 314 level. This would be a price level just based on where we found support for the last 3 weeks. This was an important support, and now that we've broken below it, if volume starts to go back up, then we would end up retesting the 314 level. But if we see declining volume, then that means that it's confirmed that we're below 314, and we're likely to stay below it. And now you're at 313. So this is another price level to look out for that we bounced on a lot. Volume really isn't picking up here, but we're still just above 313. So we haven't yet cracked below that support. And I'm not getting filled at 52 for those put debit spreads. Might need to lower my order to either 51 or 50. Dun, dun, dun. All right, I lowered my order to 50. Yeah, if you see a high in volume before the break and then volume comes down, then that means that you're either going to stay above or below depending on which direction you broke. So we saw a high in volume right before 314 and then a drop in volume after. So we would likely stay below 314. What do I think SPY will close out today? Currently at 409.40. Your next support level is all the way down at 406 from what I've got. Let's check out the hourly chart though to get a little bit better. You're looking at about maybe 408 would be my guess. Probably going to stay above 408 unless this momentum just keeps on building to the downside. Right now we're down about 0.8%. We really haven't seen a substantial sell-off for like the last how many trading days? God knows. Ever since 412, we haven't seen a substantial sell-off. We've just been kind of trading like up or down like 0.1%. So now that we're down 0.8%, we could have momentum starting to build. But it wouldn't really shock me if we do end up recovering by the end of the day, just because that's been the trend for the market. It's, seeing these huge intraday lows, and then it recovers by the end of the day. So it wouldn't really shock me to see us maybe going back to 411. Or maybe even like 412. How can you make an educated guess on if a current company will have positive or negative earnings? I just look at averages based on, so I'll look up the company's ticker symbol, Microsoft earnings history, and then the data that I like to use is marketbeat.com, just because they lay it out in a nice little graph, or a table, I guess. So it's easy to add up the numbers and take the averages. So I take the averages of what they've done for the last 8 quarters or 2 years, and then I compare that to what Wall Street is expecting on earningswhispers.com. And, if it's an industry that's doing really well, then usually they do above average. So you can say if the earnings estimates from Wall Street is below average, then they'll probably beat. And then on the opposite end of that, if Wall Street is expecting worse than average and it's in a good industry, then it's likely to beat, and then it's likely to miss if the average is above where Wall Street is expecting, and it's, in an industry like tech. Like tech is not going to have great earnings this quarter. But if Wall Street is expecting them to do better than average, they're likely to miss. Why are we going down today? Just finished a final exam. Mostly because of the consumer confidence report. That's when we started the sell-off, and breaking below some critical support levels at 314 was a pretty significant trigger for QQQ, as well as that consumer confidence report. It came in at 101.3 versus 104 expected, so about 3% worse than expected. Why do a put debit spread instead of a call credit spread when both anticipate a move in the same direction? What are the advantages? Put debit spread is going to have a better risk reward ratio. So I spent $45 in order to make $55, whereas if I went with a call credit spread, say I went above with my strike price, assuming that we were going to be below 315 tomorrow, I probably would have only gotten paid maybe 35 cents and risked 65 cents, right? So the risk reward ratio is going to be different on a out of the money call credit spread versus an out of the money put debit spread. You're always going to get a better risk reward ratio with the out of the money put debit spread. No problem, Wonder Sport. Wonder Spots. Yeah, we're just kind of finding a balance between 313 and 313.50 right now. We're not really moving in a big way yet. Oh, geez. I just got filled on that put debit spread, though, so good. Closing options alert. Premium just took profits on the 313, 314 QQQ put debit spread expiring tomorrow, which is the 26th at 50 each. So that one was about a $50 profit. So let me log in all the trades that I've made this morning. For the April calendar. All right. So the trades that I opened this morning, that I closed actually. Iron Condor was today. Did not log that yesterday, but let me do the NVIDIA put debit spread. Closed it at 610. After I opened it for 475. 610. Let's see what else I got. I opened the Iron Condor yesterday, 424. Closed it today, 425. QQQ. Put debits, or this was a Iron Condor, so it should be both. Iron Condor neutral strategy. Expiration was today, which is the 25th. If I can type. Damn. And the strike prices were 313 and 318 that I bought. 314 and 317 that I shorted. Quantity was 557. Closed at 61 for a 40 Wait a minute. $20 loss. What is math? Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see. I bought the UVixie calls yesterday, 424. Closed them today, 425. UVixie calls. Long calls. Which is a bullish strategy, but it's also bearish because it's UVixie. I'll just claim it as bullish. 428 expiration that I bought at 350 strike price. I bought 16 of these at 30 each, 31 close for 16 profit. Let's see what else. Open and close those QQQ put debit spreads today, which is a bearish strategy. Expiration was tomorrow, actually, 426. I bought the 314, sold the 313. 10 of them that I opened at 45 and closed at 50. And I think that's all the trades for today. So, April calendar starting to look pretty good. This week is starting off pretty swell. Up 324 yesterday, up 181 today. Still have a couple trades on deck with the Apple put debit spread. Actually, that's the only trade that I have on deck. But I'll probably make some more trades by the end of today. Looks like we are recovering from that 313 level, so I wouldn't be surprised if we end up trying to close above 314 by the end of today. My day trades haven't been going well, so I'm not going to try to do that. But yeah, that's all the trades I got for y'all today. If a company has a beat earnings, does a stock usually get an influx of volume? Well, they'll usually get an influx of volume either way. Whether they beat earnings or miss earnings, the results are going to, change people's minds about the company to some degree, and either they're going to be buying or selling into that. There's always an influx of volume after an earnings. If it's a beat or a miss, it doesn't really matter. What are the predictions for American Airlines earnings on Thursday if you have them? I think since Delta and United reported good guidance, I'm thinking it's going to be a little bit bullish. I would imagine that they probably already reacted, so this is a sympathy trade, right? If it's in a similar industry. They are down pretty rough 3% today. If you're looking at UAL, this one's down about 2%. And Delta is also down 1.5%. So the airline industry just isn't doing hot today, probably because consumer confidence report at 10 a.m. Ended up sending them down. I'm guessing it's probably when they started selling off. Actually, a little bit earlier, about 9:45. But that consumer confidence report is probably what's weighing down these the most right now. If people are concerned about the economy, then they're not going to be flying as much and spending as much money on travel. But American Airlines, you're saying, let's see, AL on Thursday. This one's definitely trading lower than the other two names in terms of the last 52 weeks. So there could be a little bit more leeway to the upside, just based on where it's trading relative to the other names. Guidance, I would think that their guidance would be good just because you're going into the summer months, and that's what I think United said, that, we expect a good summer ahead of us. So yeah, I think that you could end up doing pretty well. I know that TSA has been very busy the last few months, so I think that American Airlines could probably post better than expected earnings. Given that their stock is trading so low, I think that gives them more opportunity to the upside. And I would probably say about 1350 Not a huge jump, 50 cents or 60 cents on a $13 stock is like 5%. But yeah, I think they could end up recovering after earnings a little bit. That would be my guess, just based on what I'm looking at here. I'm not going to give like a super detailed analysis since I'm headed off, but yeah, I think about 13.50 would be a reasonable trade. But yeah, you're betting against momentum as of right now with it down 3%, and after the bad consumer confidence report, doesn't give me a ton of confidence for the trade. But it closed at 13.30 yesterday, and it's down 3% today, so that gives you a decent opportunity to take advantage of any upside if there is any later today and after earnings. Love my United. I work for them. Yeah. When you showed me Earnings Whisperer, where do you check if the stock think they'll beat or miss? So I do, marketbeat.com, and this will give you the average earnings. Well, you'll have to do the math yourself, but it'll give you all the numbers that you need to take the average. So you can change the end of that, whether it's a NASDAQ or NYSE stock, and then the ticker symbol. Make sure those are capitalized. Otherwise, that link won't work. But yeah, that's how I usually end up determining whether they're going to beat or miss on earnings, just based on averages. And then I'll usually give a few price targets for each of it, right? So if you check my notes from Sunday's video, I'll give like 4 different price targets based on if they beat earnings, miss earnings, beat revenue, or miss revenue. And then it's in this nice little table, as you can see. And then I try to determine what's the most likely outcome. So for me on Microsoft, I think the most likely outcome is a beat on earnings, just because they have a ton of cash they can use for buying back shares of their company. And then I think they could maybe miss revenue. So I think that their stock is going to be above 280 or around 280 is my guess. It's already trading at 280, so there might be a little bit of upside there with it trading at 279.50, or it could just trade neutral. Yeah, no problem. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I'll catch y'all tomorrow at 9:30. See you, everybody.